Okay, so before we get into this topic, I will note that some of my friends wanted me to write something a little bit longer about this, something that'll be more resembling an op-ed, and I'm beginning to realize that really that's probably not going to happen. I'm already working on a script for this channel actually that has gone through a few iterations so far, and I'm realizing just how time-consuming it can be to write, especially with my schedule. These short form videos are frankly more efficient for me, so I'm going to go ahead and do that on this topic as well. The other element that I'm going to preface with is, if it was not obvious by the title of this channel, I'm a certified public accountant. What isn't is that I have over a decade of external and internal audit experience. More recently, I've done internal audit. I've done that for over 5 years for a globally significant institutional bank. I'm an auditor in charge. I run audits over corporate functions, directing the field work, writing reports. So I'm familiar with the kind of with the form rather of report that was released by the City of Charlotte's Internal Audit Department concerning the city's alignment with their Vision Zero goals. And so I want to give my opinion as someone whose day to day really is exactly what we saw. Control testing, testing of operational effectiveness, essentially the sort of testing that you would do in order to determine the effectiveness of the control environment of a given auditee. And it's not good. I'm going to focus on the ultimate conclusion of this, which is, and you'll have to excuse me from reading from some of my notes. The conclusion states that CDOT needs to establish an adequate control structure to meet its Vision Zero program goals. Now, when I perform an audit, the first thing I'm going to go into is, okay, we need to go into planning, we need to hold walkthroughs with management, we need to obtain a risk and control self-assessment, we need to understand what this business is and what their control structure is. We're going to start evaluating controls from that point, and we're really going to dig into it as we get into field work. We do things called tests of design, where we take a look at the design of the control on paper, and is that control going to mitigate the risks that we think affect the function? And then from there, we're going to test controls for operating effectiveness. So we'll select a sample of control performances, and if those have all been performed in accordance with policy and we don't see any obvious risks that aren't being met, then we'll provide some form of a rating that will take into account any issues that we have found, but give an overall idea as to where we think the function is at. Audits of this kind are usually based on the COSO framework. This is essentially the gold standard for enterprise risk management. It has been in use in this field for a very, very long time. It is bread and butter knowledge for CPAs. It's on the CPA exam. And the same is true for certified internal auditors or certified information systems auditors. It's bread and butter information. Now, the very first part of COSO talks about the control environment. It talks about the process of risk management. It talks about what processes you have put in place, the structures that provide the basis for carrying out your internal controls, and it also refers to management's overall approach toward internal controls, the tone at the top, noting that if the control environment is if the messaging isn't coming from the top, everything else falls away. Everything else is completely ineffective rather. And that is what the Internal Audit Department is saying is wholly missing from the City of Charlotte's administration of the Vision Zero program. Their first recommendation, and it's a good one, is essentially for someone to take ownership of the entire program, someone to be responsible for monitoring its progress, someone to be responsible for raising issues, someone who's going to monitor progress against individual functions, and such a person simply hasn't been implemented. And so the very cornerstone of risk management when it comes to the city's application of the Vision Zero program is just entirely missing. I don't think I can underscore how much of a deficiency this is. This alone would catch the lowest rating possible from me, because you're saying, okay, we have no plan for risk management. We have no, you might have some policies and procedures written down on paper, but you're not serious about actually managing that function's risk. The entire structure of what it would even take is completely gone. And that, again, is what the Internal Audit Department is saying. The reason I felt the need to comment on this is because there have been a slew of headlines coming out about, despite millions being spent, fatalities aren't coming down, and that's the takeaway that people want to take from this. There are two problems that I have with this. The first, and no, I haven't run the comparison exactly, but Charlotte has been growing every single year that we've had this program. So if things are really essentially flat, then we do have to take that into a bit of context. But the second piece, and I think this is the more important one, is if you're spending money on something that has no concept of what to do in order to manage the risks impacting the initiative, has no control environment to manage this as a topic, of course, if we just shovel money into it, it's not going to have any kind of effect. And the reason I feel a little bit animated about this is because it very much bears the resemblance of something that the city council thought, when they were running for office, hey, this sounds really good for my campaign, but it's not something that I'm necessarily going to be serious about. Now, I can't look inside their heads. There may be other reasons for this. Maybe this just is detail that they're not ultimately all that concerned with. But for someone like me, someone who speaks the same language as the internal audit department, it is hard to illustrate just how scathing of a report this is. I've seen some other places say it's a wake-up call. I sure hope it is. And I hope that CDOT and CMPD will be serious about their responses to the recommendations. I do have some quibbles with them, but I don't have time to go over them individually. But yeah, that's what I have for now. If I learn anything new, I'll post another video. Thank you.